Okay, now we got the master track to look at, and yeah, I'm starting with a high pass filter here. It's also from the GVST filters VST suit, and I got the cutoff frequency at about 35 hertz, and it doesn't really cut that much at that frequency, but it rolls from 35 hertz and downwards. This is because I just want to get rid of the built-up sub-frequencies so they don't push the compressors. And well, if you have a lot of sub-frequencies that are built up in the master bus, they can sort of build up and make the compressors pump a whole lot, and you will hear that in your mix, and you won't be able to raise the volume that much. And like, if you try to push the mix high in the RMS volume, you'll notice that it's either pumping or clipping when like the kick drum hits or something. It's gonna sound weird. So you can just look at I'm using this Voxengo span to look at the frequency span here, and you can see if there's a lot of sub frequencies built up around here. And if so, you can try to roll them off. You can try to go into the individual channels if you think the bass guitar or the kick drum is the source of the sub frequencies. You can just go there and try to remove them. But sometimes different tracks work together, and sort of when they are summed in another bus, like the master bus here, when they're summed together, they might produce like whole different frequencies that weren't there from the beginning. So it's a good idea to have something to just tame the lows here. And then I have the Boot EQ MK2 again, and this is just to color the sound a bit. I'm using the warmth knob here just to add some. This really does a whole lot of difference. If you ask me, I could play the mix with and without this plugin right now, and you'd hear the difference, I guess. The EQ here is not that affectingly. It's not affecting the mix that much. It's just the highs here are a bit pulled down, but otherwise everything is just straight up. It's basically just this knob that's doing anything here. Let's check it out with and then without. And now without. It's not as thick anymore, is it? And there, halfway through that last clip, I activated this EQ, and you could hear the sound getting a lot more dense with this little setup here, or this little setting. After this one, I have a compressor just to. It's got the attack at 12.5 and the release at 32, and the master bus compressor settings are, I guess, the most important ones in the whole project, because these, well, 12.5 is basically enough to let attack through, and the release is short enough to not produce any prolonged pumping action. But I mean, if you compress a lot, there's gonna be pumping. It's hard to like get around that. I got the ratio at just 2 against 1, and the threshold of 15. Let's check it out. Yeah, as you see here, it's not compressing more than like 1.88 decibels, so it's quite low. And I also have the wet here dragged down just a little bit, so just to, I don't know, I think it doesn't matter at all if I have this at 0 or at -1 or 0.3, but I just dragged it down a little bit. I guess I was thinking about making it not clip here, but it's still clipping, and it doesn't matter since this is processed in like 64-bit or whatever. It's processed in way higher resolution than, I mean, it can't clip. It's just impossible to clip the signal within this digital domain, unless it's once it gets to the master bus and it's the final output here. That's where it clips, when it's getting converted down to some lower bit. After this one I have a JS effects. I don't think you expected this one. It's a saturation plugin, and I'm using this just to boost the volume really and adding some warmth to the mix. My aim here in this mix was to produce a pretty a pretty loud mix, but I'm not in the loudness war, and I'm not trying to be the loudest on the market, because that just sucks. But you still don't wanna sound like a demo recording from your first ever studio at your local rehearsal place. So I guess it's a good idea to just try to push up the volume a little bit, but mostly just to get a nice, dense and thick sound. And this JS effect is giving me that. I tried a lot of effects for the master track, and I considered turning this into a professional for mastering, but really I just didn't think it would be worth the money. I already did everything myself, so why not try to master it myself? And yeah, I know, a lot of people don't call this mastering because it's done in the project, in the mix. But usually you just mix with nothing on your master bus, nothing here, and then you just export everything into wave tracks or whatever uncompressed format you want to work in, and then you bring those into some professional other program just to master. And mastering, basically everyone has their own definition of mastering, but as far as I understand, it's the art of making one coherent sound for one album, so it doesn't sound like there's songs from different albums put together into one collection. So yeah, and there's also EQ adjustments and compression going on there, and also like volume boosting and stuff in a professional way. But yeah, my view on mastering is just to get that coherent sound and to boost the volume. I'm not a mastering engineer, so there's a whole lot I don't know here, actually, and I'm fine with that. I just wanted to get some volume. Anyway, that was some Swedish there. Anyway, let's listen. Actually, I'm gonna turn off all the JS effects and see what effect they have on this mix in the master bus here. It's one saturation, one louderizer. I have no idea what it does, but I guess it's some sort of saturation as well. I'm using only the mixed sound 100% and 30% on the drive. And then there's a reloud here. Makes it louder, duh. I love these plugins. I mean, they're just basic stuff, nothing fancy. And you can mix some of this in. If you have it on 100%, it's going to be pretty much louder, but I found that it was like sort of starting to clip around here, so I don't want any audible clipping, or I guess I have some, but it's not that audible. So try to keep these settings low and listen for clipping. That's pretty important. Here's a zero crossing maximizer, not a clipper. This seems really interesting to me, and the theory behind it is, well, as I mentioned, the zero crossings on the sound, on the tracks, it's where the amplitude is zero, and whenever the wave crosses that zero amplitude, it's a zero crossing, and I guess this somehow uses that technique to maximize stuff, which makes it, I guess it sounds more gentle than other maximizers, but yeah, I'm not using a lot of this. It's just the threshold setting, which is minus 1.5, so not a whole lot. Anyway, now I'm gonna turn them back on, listen, and then turn them off. and here we go. Okay, and there I activated them one by one just to see how the effect is built up. So these JS effects do a whole lot for the volume. They actually boost quite a bit without making it sound really crappy. So I tried just compressing with normal compressors, with recomp, other compressors, and it just didn't work for me. I think what seems to work best for me when it comes to volume boosting is getting the individual tracks pretty compressed first. You want them to, I mean, dynamics is nice and all. People will tell you to keep dynamics in the mix, but it all depends on what you're supposed to do or what you're aiming for. And I'm aiming for a pretty thick mix, so it's a good idea to get rid of the unnecessary dynamics. I mean, it's not like saying you shouldn't have any dynamics at all, but just the unnecessary dynamics. You can think like, well, does the clean guitar need this much dynamics? The answer might be no, and then you could just compress that extra lot, what do you say, yeah, whatever, on the track itself, and then just gently compress on the master track. Because if you compress a lot on the master track and keep the individual tracks very dynamic, they will affect each other very audibly in the master track, since one loud instrument will bring every other instrument down in volume. But if they're all decent loud and not changing so much in loudness, the compressor here is going to have a easier time to work and produce a good sound. So yeah, we were at the recomp and then went down to loser, JS. Then there's a Son EQ from Sonimus. Also, yeah, you guessed it, freeware. And this EQ is pretty cool. It got some saturation stuff going on, and I guess it's sort of aiming to be an analog feel type of EQ, a bit vintage or something. And I guess it's working, but equalizers are pretty much the same in their foundation, but they sound different due to, well, whatever different effects they have built in. If an equalizer is only an equalizer, it will sound pretty much like an equalizer, a digital normal equalizer, you know. But I guess the reason for different equalizers and people saying, like praising different equalizers, is that some equalizers have built-in effects which are not visible to the user. Like if this drive knob was here and always activated at like 40%, but it was not visible, if they had just built this in, hidden, like a hidden little bonus, then people would still notice a difference between this EQ and others. And this might sound better for some projects. They will describe it as sounding more musical or warmer or stuff like that, but I don't believe an equalizer makes anything warmer or anything in its foundation. Yeah, I shouldn't talk too much. I don't know all the techniques behind this, but I think it's something like that. A lot of programmers build stuff hidden inside of a basic equalizer, so they will produce pretty different sounds. Anyway, I'm just actually attenuating some bass here, removing some excess bass in the very low region. Well, not very, but in the 100 hertz and below. Just attenuating that a little bit, and then I'm boosting the highs a little bit. And this is a warmer type of EQ because of the drive setting here, and it's got some whoa setting. Whoa. So I guess it's yeah, it makes it sound a little bit smoother or something. Here, take a listen. So if you could hear here, when I deactivated this EQ, it sounded a bit more MIDI, and not necessarily bad. I think it sounded more like some sixth record or something. They have the Death of a Dead Day album is so awesome. It has so much mids, and still it sounds awesome, just pure awesome. And I guess it sounded a bit more in that direction, and it sounds a little bit more metal, classic metal, and scooped with this on, and that's basically because I am boosting the highs, and even though I'm attenuating the lows, I think this woof setting is adding some woof, some bass. So a net result is that I'm pretty much getting a more metal sound, a bit more scooped. I actually like the mix a bit. Let's see. Yeah, okay, as it is right now, it sounds better with this on, but if I would turn this off, I would have to go and make the kick drum a bit more punchy and bassy. Then it would fit pretty well. Anyway, here's the louderizer, and I already talked about this. Here's a reloud. Also talked about this. I don't know exactly what it does, so there's not much to say. And this is the beautiful thing about mixing and working with music. Since you're working with your ears, you don't have to know the technique behind everything. It's far more important to just listen and judge for yourself. Does this sound good? Do I notice a difference? Do a lot of A/B testing like this, click on and off. Sometimes I'm just sitting here and closing my eyes, and I'm spamming this button until I don't know if it's on or off, and then I try to guess. Is it on? Is it off? And if I guess that 3 times correctly, 3 times in a row correctly, then I will probably use it, and I will decide to, like, I will trust my ears then. That's basically what I'm saying. Another boot EQ MK2 is coming after all this loudness stuff, and it's also dragging down some highs. I guess it's to compensate for the added highs here. This added high, you might wonder why I even added some here just to pull it off here. But as I said, this EQ sounds a bit different and warmer with this setting, so I'm adding some warmth in the highs and then just pulling it back down to not be that high, not be that loud in the highs, but still have some of that smooshiness, the warmth in the highs. And also I'm adding back some even more low frequency warmth here. So, and boosting some more warmth here around. No, this is actually the mids, not. I guess warmth is for me like the 100 to 120 to like 250 hertz area. The low mids, or the boxy mids actually. Usually it sounds crap there, but if you get it right, you can make a mix sound really warm. Okay. Zero crossing maximizer. It's, well, just a maximizer using some different technique, I guess. The zero crossing thingy sounds good. You can push it quite hard, but watch out, don't go too far. GClip, you've seen this before already, and I'm boosting the overall volume of the whole thing here by 1.2 decibels and a little bit of softness. Softness helps reduce the audible clipping that may be introduced from GClip. It also like reduces the clarity of the high frequencies, so I wouldn't recommend using too much of the softness. Or if you do, use it, but then you have to compensate the mix, like mix with this thing on, so you mix through it, and yeah. But yeah, I would try to keep this at 0 actually. And then I have a GClip again right after with a little bit more softness and just a little bit of increased gain. I found these settings to be the best for my project here. If I push it more, it's gonna sound too loud and too fatiguing and just tiring your ears out. So these settings are nothing for you. I mean, just play around and see what's good for your project. And the 2 GClip in a row is a pretty cool tip I found from the Andy Sneap forum. It's working well. The first one cuts the transients that peak like too much, and then the second one boosts everything else, and still cuts the transient if there is any left that peaks over. So it's a good technique. And the limiter here is a clone of the Waves L1 limiter, and it's a freeware thingy I found on KVR Audio. That website has a lot of VSTs. So W1 limiter, it's not actually boosting the volume or anything. I'm just using it as a brick wall limiter, just to make sure that nothing from GClip gets out and peaks over minus 0.3 decibels. And then I have the span here. I guess I could show you this one. Just let's reset. Yep. I mean, G-span is awesome. You saw how it jumped up here when, if you didn't go back and look, it jumped up here when this bass drop, the sub thingy came in. And if you have like very bad speakers, or you're mixing on some cans that are sounding pretty crap, you can just slap a span here, and at least once you learn span, you can see annoying sounds. You can like see, whoa, what's going on down here at 20 hertz, there's a big peak. I can't even hear it, but it's there. So that means you have something wrong in your project. Or if there's a big peak here, there's something resonating, or maybe it's a filter that has a very narrow Q value, and you're just peaking something where it shouldn't peak. So, and you can see like holes and scoops. If you have too little of something somewhere, with some eye training, it's possible to see those things even if you can't hear them. And then you can try to listen more closely in that area, try to locate the problem, and I mean, you just gotta use all your senses, really. Yeah. Okay, I guess that's it, guys. That's the whole master track. And I'm using the same settings for every song here. It's, well, the point is to make a coherent sound, so I'm starting from the same template at least, and then if one song has like more treble in the cymbals for some reason, maybe one of the cymbals were cracking and produced more sizzle sounds and stuff, then I could just go in and change that template and adjust accordingly to each song. And that's what you should do. You should never commit yourself to one setting and use that on all songs just because you're a fucking control freak or something. I used to be like that, but then I realized what the hell's the point of being a control freak, really? You're just limiting yourself and hurting your project. So it's far better to allow yourself some chaos in your control freak mind and just apply settings differently to different songs. The only bad thing about that is if you have like a template, if you're mixing 10 songs in 10 different projects like I do, I'm not actually mixing. Some people like to mix everything in one entire project, but I just can't see how I would fit that into my limited memory here in a 32-bit OS. I can understand doing that in 64-bit when I have like 32 gigabyte ROM or something. But here it's quite impossible when you have synthesizers and you have like different instruments for different projects, which would mean you have to have all instruments on all projects, on all songs in one project. So that's very heavy on the CPU and ROM, unless you pre-render everything, and I'm pretty bad at that. I'm not really. I like the option to go back and change the kick drum's third equalizer in the middle of the mastering. Maybe I just realize, hey, damn, I made a mistake earlier and now I'm gonna fix it. So I don't really get the point. I mean, I get the point of the thing people say, like, decide on something and commit to it and then just continue, because you can't always go back and change stuff. But why would I do that if I can get a better result by not doing that? But once you work professionally and you are like very experienced, those issues will be non-issues and you will make stuff correct from the beginning. And even if you don't, you will have the knowledge to fix it later. And if you don't, you will have the wisdom to not fuck with it, just go with it, because you can't go back and change stuff when you have a limited time frame, because your label is pushing you and giving you deadlines for a release. So there's also that aspect. I have a lot of time when I'm working by myself like this, because I'm my own boss. So there's no label here pushing anything. What I would like to see in Reaper would be like dynamic FX chains, is what I would call them. That would be one FX chain that you like here you can add VST effects and you can add FX chains. And in my idea would be that you select one chain and you like somehow maybe click on it, select it so it becomes dynamic. And dynamic means that it can be changed through other projects. And if this chain here is a dynamic chain and I apply it to my kick drum, it would mean that it's shared by other projects. And then if I go into another song and apply the same dynamic chain, they would have a link between them. So any changes I make on this track here would instantly be reflected on the other project that has the same FX chain. And once you arrive at a good sound and you think like, okay, this FX chain is good now for this project, for this song, then you can just select it again and make it not dynamic, so it wouldn't be shared. That's a function I would really like to see in Reaper, and I did post it on their forum like maybe 1.5 years ago, but people weren't really catching up on it. I don't know if people got what I was saying or if it didn't mean that much to people, but for me, when I'm mixing like this, I have 10 different projects with 10 different songs. It would be a huge time saver, because basically now what I've done is I have mixed in one song. It has been this one actually. I have made the mix as complete as possible here, and then I just exported every FX chain by doing like this. Marquee, select everything, right click, go to FX chains, save selected FX as chain, or just save all FX as chain. And then you can, well actually you can just hit Control S and you name it and you save it. And then you can go to the next project. Oh well, you have to do this for every track, by the way. Every track that uses a different setting or a chain. And then you have all your chains and you go to some other project. Hello. Thank you. And you just click on some other project and then it opens up. You go into the FX chain. You select everything there. Delete that shit. Right click. Either go here, load FX chain, or just click on add FX chains, and you'll see it here if you saved it in some place where Reaper can find it. Otherwise you can just FX chains, load FX chain, and select the file manually. Yeah, that would be pretty awesome if they made that possible, the dynamic FX chain thingy. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I don't think I've forgotten anything. Maybe I did forget to mention the vocal effects. Yeah, I think I did. I went to the distortion, vocal distortion, but not the effects. Okay, as a bonus here, here's a vocal effects. Or did I mention it? It's nothing. It's just reverb too for the reverb, and some filtering. Filter out the lows so it doesn't mud up your mix. And the reverb should be set something like, you don't want it to be audible in the mix too much. It's not like you're listening and going, there's reverb on the vocals while the whole mix is playing. It should be audible, but not like it's not supposed to be in the front. And when you solo the track, well, then you'll, of course, hear the reverb. Actually, I have quite a lot of reverb.
And a secure little bastard is Basile shit. The fucks up and fucks around and spoils. I got it.
Yeah, as you notice, I have a delay that's pretty long but low in volume, so it's like it's laying itself like a carpet underneath everything. It's pretty cool to do it that way, or you could just choose to have a louder delay with a shorter feedback, I guess, but then it might be annoying if it's heard too much. But always keep that in mind for effects. I mean, really effects. I don't count compressors and equalizers as effects, but effects for me are like, yeah, reverb, delay, everything that's used to spice things up. I don't think equalizers and compressors or multiband compressors and stuff, I don't think they spice things up. They are tools. They're essential. They're like hammers and saws to build stuff, while this delay and reverb is like the paint or something. Sometimes you can pick really ugly paint, sometimes you can pick some good shit. Okay, that's it. This is the end of part 3, and I might add some bonus part if there's stuff I have forgotten, or yeah, if people say I need to explain something more. Okay. Have a good day. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.